So the other day I was looking at my Criterion Collection and I was like, it's been quite a while since I made a video talking about the Criterion Collection, so why not make a new video about that now? Hi everybody, it's Charles and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hi, my name is Charles and yeah, welcome to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 Criterions that I feel are underrated in the Criterion Collection. I mean, there are over 1,000 movies in the Criterion Collection, and there just are a few that I'm like, people just don't buy these ones as much or, talk about them as much. I've been collecting Criterion since the summer of 2017, and I'm pretty well acquainted with the Criterion Collection's catalog, and I've seen a lot of people's, Criterion videos showing what they buy and also their whole collection in general. So I have a pretty good idea of what, in my opinion, is underrated when it comes to, the Criterion Collection. I mean, of course, some people probably are going to say that some of the movies I talk about aren't underrated, but you know what? To me, Spike Lee, to me, they are underrated. Rated. I could go on and on about movies in the Criterion Collection that I think are underrated, but you know what? I was just like, we're gonna stick with 10. That way I have a limit, and also I can talk about them as much as I want and not just speed through them all. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this whole video already. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is Charade from Stanley Donen, starring Cary Grant, Audrey Hepburn, and Walter Matthau. So Charade is spine 57 in the Criterion Collection. It's in fact one of the first Criterions, of course, 57 out of all the other Criterions. But yeah, if you don't know what Charade is basically a Hitchcock movie, and it's crazy because it's not made by Hitchcock, it's made by Stanley Donen, who really did not make movies like Hitchcock, but both Charade and also one other movie named Aberrask are the two movies that Stanley Donen's ever made that feels like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. This movie has all the sensibilities of an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and it also stars, an Alfred Hitchcock collaborator, Cary Grant. So if the lead of this movie wasn't Audrey Hepburn and instead was some actress who was blonde back in the time period, then this honestly could really pass for, an Alfred Hitchcock movie. If you don't know what Charade is, it's basically a murder mystery comedy where Audrey Hepburn's husband has all of a sudden died and all their stuff is gone, and apparently he was stealing a lot of money and he was gonna run away with the money before he died. But yeah, a bunch of people are trying to find the money now, and they're coming to Audrey Hepburn because they were like, you were his wife, so you should know where it is. And she's like, I don't know where it is. And her and Cary Grant team up together to try to find this money, and also Cary Grant's trying to keep her safe. Or is he? Question mark. I just love Charade so much. I mean, it is such a fun movie, but also it has all those emotional moments and also all the dramatic moments. So it really gives you everything you want. And also, how could you not like a movie starring Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant? I feel like a lot of people think that this movie's basic and it doesn't deserve to be in the collection, but I don't know. If you look at Stanley Donen's filmography, he has a lot of great movies, but most of them are musicals or comedies or comedy musicals, so I would see why a lot of them aren't in the Criterion Collection. But this movie, I'm pretty sure it is his first foray into something a little bit more serious than just doing a flat-out comedy. So I don't know. And also, as I said before, this movie gets mistaken as an Alfred Hitchcock movie, so I just feel like they were this movie is a really good, kind of spoof in a way of an Alfred Hitchcock movie. One that is oh, it really feels like an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but then again, when you're watching it, you're but something's off and it really doesn't feel like an Alfred Hitchcock movie at the same time. This is one of Audrey Hepburn's movies that she made in the 60s. I mean, it's still comedic, but at the same time, a lot of her movies in the 60s had very dramatic elements to them or were just, full-out dramas. And this movie, I'm just yeah, I would have really loved to have seen Audrey Hepburn in more movies like this. But you know what? We got we got from Audrey Hepburn, and her filmography is pretty great for the most part, with just a few exceptions. The only thing I will say about this movie that I didn't like is that Cary Grant was the lead, male star of this movie. I mean, I love Cary Grant, but at this point in his career, I was you are way too old, and you really should not be, paired up with Audrey Hepburn, who was super young. I mean, looking at Audrey Hepburn's, filmography, all the guys that she gets to be with in every movie, they're so much older than her, and I'm geez, could we not have gotten a younger person to be with Audrey Hepburn? I mean, there were younger male stars at the time, and I'm just y'all just like to see old men with this young girl, and I'm just young woman, and I'm just it's gross, and I'm just we could have found someone else. I mean, I love all the actors that she's worked with in all her movies, but at the same time, I'm y'all are old when you made these movies with her, so get away from her, please. Overall, I think that Charade's a great movie, and I think that Stanley Donen did an amazing job putting it together. I mean, this movie did so well that, Stanley Donen went on to make another movie like this called Aberrask, as I told you earlier. And, that movie starred Gregory Peck and Sophia Loren. And it's not as great as Charade, but you know what? That's still a great movie too. And I just wish that we got more movies like this in Aberrask from Stanley Donen. But, after Aberrask, I think didn't do that well. He went back to comedies, and I was like, okay, I guess. If you like Hitchcock movies, if you like Audrey Hepburn, if you like Cary Grant, then this is the movie for you. The next movie I'm going to talk about is The Cranes Are Flying. I mean, I don't know how to pronounce the director's name or any of the actor's name, but yeah, The Cranes Are Flying. For those of you who don't know, The Cranes Are Flying is about a woman named Veronica who wants to be with her lover Boris, and they're about to get engaged, but then World War II happens, and it is a whole mess, and their lives are thrown into chaos. Oh, and this movie takes place in Russia too, so it's kind of like the Russian kind of side perspective of what went on in World War II, both like on the battlefield and at home in Russia. At the very start of this movie, it shows you what awards it's won, and my mind watching it for the first time was like, this is very braggadocious of you, this is very, like, arrogant, kind of, but after watching the movie, I was like, no, y'all should brag about what awards you've won. Every aspect of this movie is perfect, from the direction, to the acting, to the writing, to the cinematography, to the production design. I mean, everything about this movie is just stunning. Stunning. The Blu-ray edition of this movie recently came out last year, so I'm just saying, if you haven't watched The Cranes Are Flying, you should really watch it. I mean, if you're subscribed to the Criterion channel, then it's on there to watch, so go watch it because it's amazing, and I don't know, I'm just like, it is another movie that's early in the Criterion Collection, and honestly, I can see why this is one of the first movies they chose because it is just exquisite. Oh, I forgot to say earlier, it's spine number 146 in the Criterion Collection. Oh yeah, last thing I want to say about this movie is that the cinematography and, the tracking shots in the movie, the cinematography in general in this movie just goes off on another level, and that was the most impressive thing about this movie to me. I mean, right behind it was the acting and then, the story. But as I said earlier, everything about this movie is perfect for me. So yeah, I'm just like, go watch it because it is just an amazing movie, and it deserves to be seen. The next movie I'm going to talk about is Foreign Correspondent from Alfred Hitchcock, starring Joel McCrea. Foreign Correspondent is a fantastic movie, especially from Alfred Hitchcock. But you know what? When it comes to Alfred Hitchcock's movies in the Criterion Collection, I just feel like this one and also The Man Who Knew Too Much are ones that people don't talk enough about. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk about Foreign Correspondent because it's a great movie about journalism, and it stars one of my favorite old-time stars, Joel McCrea. God, he was so hot. So hot. If you didn't know what Foreign Correspondent was about, it's about this young American journalist who is in Europe, and he finds out there are enemies in London, so he has to try to expose them before it's too late because, it's World War II and they are trying to fight off, the Axis powers and all that junk. Alfred Hitchcock knows how to give you like a suspenseful, thrilling movie, and this movie is no exception. I mean, the set pieces in this movie, amazing, especially the very last set piece in this movie where the airplane's going down into the water. I mean, Alfred Hitchcock, he really knew how to give you a great set piece. What I love about this movie is that it is just a love letter to journalists and, journalism as a whole because, especially back then, they were trying to show that there are people who are trying to get you the news and they're risking their lives in order to get the news to you. And I don't know, looking at our society today in the year 2021, I don't know, I just feel like people have just subjected so much scrutiny to, like journalism as a whole because I'm just like, it's media that really is the problem, but journalism, I'm like, journalists are trying to do their job and get you guys the truth, and now there are just so much people being like, no, this is the truth, and it's like, ooh, you guys are giving off opinions, not the truth, and it's just really disgusting how, media has turned journalism against people. More like not journalism against people, people against journalism, and it's just a scary thought overall. But yeah, if you like movies that has suspense, if you like a good mystery, if you like great action set pieces in movies, especially old movies, and if you like Alfred Hitchcock movies, then this movie should be something that you should watch because it has all that and it's just an amazing movie in general. I mean, it got nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, so it's good. It's good. Also, I just want to say Joel McCrea is an amazing actor, and when I look at old movies, people just don't really talk about Joel McCrea, but he is a very dependable lead actor, and I don't know, I just feel like he should get more shine, you guys, because he is just that guy. He is just that guy. If you look at a bunch of old movies, he's just there, and you would characterize him now, I guess, as a character actor, but he really was a leading man during the time period that he was from. But I don't know. I just don't think he got the shine that he should have gotten, you know? Oh yeah, I forgot to say earlier that, Foreign Correspondent is spine 696 in the Criterion Collection. The next movie I'm going to show you is Tootsie from Sydney Pollack, starring Dustin Hoffman, Jessica Lange, Terry Garr, and, a bunch of other people. Oh yeah, and it's spine 738 in the Criterion Collection. I love Tootsie a lot, but you know what? I just feel like not that many people are talking about Tootsie. I mean, when the movie came out, I'm pretty sure it was like a huge lightning point for people to talk about because it got a lot of Oscar nominations, and I believe at least one win for Jessica Lange for Best Supporting Actress. But you know what? As the years have gone by, from when it came out to now, I feel like it just has slowly started slipping away from like the, popular culture of it all, and people just don't talk about Tootsie at all anymore, or if people say Tootsie, people are like, huh, that sounds vaguely familiar. If you don't know what Tootsie's about, it's basically about this male Broadway actor who's trying to get enough money to put on his own play. So he's trying to find work, but he's been branded as, very hard to work with. So he dresses up as a woman to see if he can get this job at this daytime soap opera, and he gets it. And basically we just get to see like power dynamics between the two genders of men and women. And the main character, Dustin Hoffman's character, is just learning the differences of what like women go through versus what men go through. Tootsie is just such a great exploration of how men and women are treated differently, and I don't know, they just do it in such a fun way that it really is just very palatable, and everything in this movie has like a reason to be there. I watched it with like the director commentary on, and I was just very fascinated into how much work Sydney Pollack put into making this movie. I love Tootsie so much, and if I can only keep a few of my criterions, Tootsie would be one of the ones I would keep because it's just so well done, and also it's just so digestible and easy to watch. If you haven't seen Terry Garr's interviews during the press cycle of this movie, and also like as time has gone on, then you should, because her tea about this movie, she's just like, Jessica Lange winning that Oscar? Wrong. And also Dustin Hoffman and what he took away from this movie, she's like, okay. Oh my god, it slipped my mind that Bill Murray is in this movie too. I mean, I knew Gina Davis is in it, but she's only in it for a little bit, so I wasn't going to mention Gina Davis. But Bill Murray is in this movie too, and I forget because he doesn't really get top billing because he didn't want his name to like kind of tell people what kind of a movie this was, because Bill Murray, especially back then, he was known for like balls out comedy, and he was like, yeah, this is comedic, but it's not like a riot fest, it's like funny but at the same time not too funny. So he was like, don't put my name too high because that will give people expectations for this movie. The next movie I'm going to show you is Women in Love, directed by Ken Russell, starring Glenda Jackson, Alan Bates, and Oliver Reed. The movie is spine number 916 in the Criterion Collection, if I didn't say that earlier. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it, which is why I'm saying it now. So Women in Love is basically about these two best friends and how they fall in love with these two sisters and, the way their relationships kind of go off from there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This movie is first and foremost an acting showcase, especially for Glenda Jackson. This movie won Glenda Jackson her first lead actress Oscar, and very well deserved. I don't really know how to describe what fully goes on in this movie other than we're just looking at how relationships are going, relationships between best friends, relationships between lovers. It is just a really fascinating movie about characters, like trying to live their lives and trying to find love or maybe not love. I don't know. It just really is a fascinating movie to watch. Larry Kramer, famous gay writer, adapted the screenplay for this movie. And watching the movie, I'm just like, there are so many homosexual undertones to like the relationship between Alan Bates and Oliver Reed's characters. I'm just like, it's there. Especially there's a scene in the movie where they wrestle naked, and I was like, okay, yes. I know this movie isn't for everyone, but I just love it a lot. Watching these four main characters try to find out what is love to them, and do they actually want love, and who do they want to be loving in the first place. If anything, you should watch this movie just to see Glenda Jackson's powerful performance. Her as Gudrun, she was a force of nature in this movie. The next movie I'm going to talk about is Shampoo from Hal Ashby, starring Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, Goldie Hawn, and Lee Grant. Oh yeah, the movie is Spy 947 in the Criterion Collection. I would try to tell you guys what Shampoo is about, but honestly, I was like, what is Shampoo really about? I mean, it centers around Warren Beatty's hairdresser main character as he's like sleeping around with women and, there's an election going on, something like that. But this movie just has a lot of political undertones to it and commentary on like politics in general at the time. I think that was a good summary of the movie, kind of. Just like Alfred Hitchcock, Hal Ashby has a few movies in the Criterion Collection, and looking at Hal Ashby's movies in the Criterion Collection, I was like, I feel like people just don't talk about Shampoo enough. They're more likely talk about Being There or Harold and Maude, but I was like, let's talk about Shampoo, because Shampoo is a great movie even though it isn't talked about enough. I just think that this movie is a really good movie with something to say about politics at the time. I mean, this movie came out in 1975, so especially with Warren Beatty, that there's going to be some political things to be said. I mean, it's not really stated in the movie, but it's the subtext of the movie, what it's trying to say about politics. Also, this movie, the three main leads of Warren Beatty, Julie Christie, and Goldie Hawn, they're just hot. They're hot. So at the very least, you should watch this movie just to marvel over these three hot people being together on screen and being like, yeah, that's hot. Also, you should check this film out just to see Lee Grant's Best Supporting Actress Oscar winning performance. I mean, did she deserve to win? I don't think so. I still believe at this point that Lily Tomlin should have won for Nashville, but you know what? Lee Grant, from what I can remember, she does give a great performance in this movie still. The next movie I'm going to talk about is A Dry White Season, which is Spy 953 in the Criterion Collection. I cannot pronounce the director's name, but the movie stars Donald Sutherland, Susan Sarandon, and Marlon Brando. I personally love this movie. I mean, some people don't think it's that good, but I think it's an amazing movie. It's from a black female director, so we're really getting her perspective on what's going on. And in this movie, we're looking at apartheid in South Africa, and I was like, this is crazy, y'all. This is crazy. The movie really just deals with how black people are treated in South Africa during apartheid, and honestly, I was like, this is not it. Y'all white people came to Africa and took over this land, and then you're treating black people horribly? Mess. I just think that this movie does a great job showing how white people really be turning their backs to all the atrocities that they be doing toward black people, especially in Africa. I mean, South Africa, that is like a place where I'm like, there's a lot of contention there. I mean, white people have claimed it as their own, and it's like, this is weird. This is weird that you guys legit took over this space in Africa from black people, and then you treat black people like that. I just think that this movie does a really good job in showing the horrors that are inflicted on black people, especially during apartheid in South Africa. I mean, it's just wild. It's just wild. And I was like, white people be wildin' everywhere they go. I love Donald Sutherland in this movie. He's basically like the audience surrogate for us to be like, oh, what's going on here is horrible, it's wrong, and how have I been like turning a blind eye to it this whole time? I have to try and help stop this. I mean, I love Donald Sutherland, and it is just sad to me that he never got an Oscar nomination. I mean, he had plenty of chances to get Oscar nominated, but he just did not play the Oscar game. And I know he has an honorary Oscar now, but he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for something. Maybe this, maybe Ordinary People. A lot of chances he had. The next movie I'm going to show you is A Face in the Crowd from Elia Kazan, starring Andy Griffith, Patricia Neal, and Walter Matthau. The movie is Spy 970 in the Criterion Collection. If you don't know what A Face in the Crowd is, basically it's this movie about this guy who was in the slums and all that, and Patricia Neal's character has taken care of him, and then all of a sudden he becomes a personality, like a radio personality, and as time goes on, he just keeps getting more and more people to like follow him, and eventually he becomes a big influencer in the world, and people just listen to him, and yeah, it basically just shows the rise and fall of someone who becomes a media star and how he attracts all these people toward him to listen to him. It's a cautionary tale, Face in the Crowd. I mean, out of all of Elia Kazan's movies, I feel like this one is the most politically relevant it has ever been. I mean, the fall of Donald Trump. I mean, watching this movie, I'm like, Andy Griffith's character is basically Donald Trump, and the way this movie foretold a lot of how our media would go in the future, it's crazy. It's crazy. The craziest part in this movie is at the end when Walter Matthau is like, someone will come after you. You're done for. Someone else will rise up and there'll be another person who's just like you. And my mind was like, ooh, Don't say stuff like that, because I know it's true that when a Hydra's head's cut off, like, two more sprout in its place, but I just don't want to think about the next horrible person who's going to emerge in real life after, the fall of Donald Trump. I mean, there are a lot of people who are vying to, like, take his spot, and I'm just like, can we just stop with the madness? But yeah, give this movie a watch because it is an amazing Elia Kazan movie, one of his best, and it is still extremely relevant in our society today, so you should give it a watch because it's amazing, simply amazing. The next movie I'm going to show you is Polyester from John Waters starring Divine and Tab Hunter. The movie is spine 995 in the Criterion Collection. I love John Waters, and I love how his movies have such shock value. He's just trying to gross you out. But with this one, it's more of a melodrama. I mean, he modeled this movie after a Douglas Sirk movie, so he was giving less like his shock value that he usually does in his movies like Pink Flamingos or Multiple Maniacs, and more like melodrama, but he still delivers on like the kind of gorishness and silliness that he always delivers on. If you don't know what Polyester is, it's basically a movie about this suburban housewife whose life is falling apart as her husband, who's a pornographer, like is unfaithful to her, and her daughter is going downhill. Also, her son might be like this foot fetish person that people are trying to catch. Her life is just like a mess, and she's just like, I need to escape this life. I wanted to talk about Polyester when it comes to John Waters' movies in the Criterion Collection because I feel like this one is the most kind of demure and more tame movie of all his movies in the collection. I mean, there are still some gross out moments and moments of shock value in this movie, but for the most part, I feel like John Waters really was like, I'm going to serve you guys a melodrama, and that is exactly what he did. I love how in the packaging for this movie, they give you the smellorama. That way you can like follow along. Because in the movie, there are moments in the movie where they're like, scratch the card. That way you can smell what the character is smelling. And honestly, the first time I watched the movie, I didn't have the smellorama and I didn't watch it this way. I watched it online. But this time around, when I watch it again, I'm going to use that smellorama. And my God, is that going to be an experience. If you haven't watched a movie from John Waters starring Divine, then you should watch this one because it's such a tame one to start off with. I mean, I started off with Multiple Maniacs, so I really went headfirst into the craziness that is John Waters and Divine. I really love how John Waters cast Tab Hunter in this movie. He really helped Tab Hunter get a foot back into Hollywood and, kind of help him build his career kind of back up. I mean, Hollywood legit destroyed Tab Hunter once they found out he was gay. I mean, it's just so sad. But you know what? John Waters said, baby, I got you. I'm going to help you get a little bit of money and to get your face back out there. And that's exactly what this movie did for Tab Hunter. If you want to have some fun and if you want to experience some melodrama, then this is the movie that you should watch. The last movie I'm going to talk to you guys about is An Unmarried Woman from Paul Mazursky, starring Jill Clayburgh and Alan Bates. The movie is spine 1032 in the Criterion Collection. If you've never seen An Unmarried Woman, basically it's about this woman who learns that her husband has been having an affair and that he's leaving her. So it's basically this woman, Jill Clayburgh's character, how she's just reeling with the fact that now she's single and what should she do? And it's just her exploring her sexuality and all that. I absolutely love Jill Clayburgh in this movie. I think her performance is amazing, and if Jane Fonda wasn't in the same year with Coming Home, then best believe that Jill Clayburgh was going to win the Oscar because she won at Cannes, so she was super close to winning the Oscar. She probably was like number 2 behind Jane Fonda. At the end of the day, this movie is just a character study about a woman who now has to figure out who she is now that she's single, and it is an amazing movie, and I really think that you should give it a watch because it really is just that good. Jill Clayburgh and Alan Bates together is fireworks. They are amazing together. Also, the ending of this movie is just, beautiful. It is beautiful. With that, I'm done with my video talking to you guys about some underrated movies in the Criterion Collection that I think you should check out. I mean, once again, some people might not think that these movies I talked about are underrated, but to me, I feel like they're underrated movies in this collection. Tell me down below in the comments what you thought about my underrated movies in the Criterion Collection. Do you think they're underrated or do you think they're not underrated? And if you've seen them, tell me what you think about these movies because I love all 10 of these movies a lot. So tell me what you guys think about them. If you guys liked what you saw in this video, maybe you should go, subscribe to my channel because I talk about movies, I talk about Blu-rays, I do music reactions, and I do whatever else I want to do on my channel because you know what? It's my channel, so I'm going to do whatever else I want to do. So if any of that sounds interesting to, you, then, subscribe to my channel because, why not? It's free. Anyways, thank you guys for coming to my channel and watching this whole video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video if you're around. So yeah. Yep. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go now. So yes. Bye.